Welcome back, everybody. Oh, here's the camera. Welcome back, everybody. The Marty Grisani Show. This is a very special episode. This is episode 69. And I'm excited to talk about episode 69 because we're going to be talking about AI strategies. We're going to be talking about how I'm using AI for my commercial and residential business, real estate business, and how I think it's going to be useful for you, especially if you've never used it before. And I'm going to have some really kind of dialed in strategies that I've been using that, you know, as you're using ChatGPT or any of the different AI strategies, you know, it's really digging in and finding, you know, the detail of how it's going to work for your business. So it takes some time, but I'm going to talk a little bit about as I've uncovered strategies and I've uncovered a playbook that I've been using, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. Of course, we're going to have some question and answer. So yeah, episode 69, you know, basically let's just get in a position to learn, you know, lay back and, or if you learn through some sort of plank position, either way, let the information kind of straddle you. This is episode 69, and this is the Marty Grisani Show. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Marty Grisani, and this is the Marty Grisani Show. As a full-time real estate investor and business owner, I have a real fascination of finding the key principles for business success and personal development. This show is a reflection of my personal mission to find out what truly makes somebody successful in business and in life. We will find tools and tactics that they've used to reach those levels. If you're the type of person who is not satisfied with average and you have a hunger for learning that will never cease, this show is for you. Welcome to the show.
All right. So, top 5 AI strategies that I'm using for my commercial real estate business right now are: number 1, deal analysis. So what do I mean? So this is a mind-blowing tool. When I'm getting a P&L on a property, I can take that information and literally upload it into ChatGPT, and I can ask it questions on that P&L. So if there's specific questions I want to know, if there's, hey, what is this, you know, what is the cap rate on this currently as is? You know, what is ways that you can see in this P&L where their expenses are high or low, or, you know, what might be missing, right? All these different things that you can ask. And again, depending on your strategy as an investor, but just being able to input a P&L, which is a profit and loss statement, or even like an offering memorandum, and putting it into ChatGPT and just asking it questions and letting the AI be your consultant, especially if numbers are not your specialty, right? If you're a deal finder and you're taking this information, you can put it into ChatGPT, and that can help you ask better questions to the broker, get better information. Because, you know, really our whole life, the better questions we ask, the better our life is going to be, right? So if we can use this tool to ask better questions on that property, or just anything specifically that you might be looking for when you're diving deep into the numbers, ChatGPT is your friend on that. Number 2, and this was mind-blowing. This is one of my favorite ways to use it because of the time it took me. So obviously my number 1 skill set is deal finding and being someone who can really hawk, you know, off-market commercial properties. And how I do that is through taking different sources of properties, you know, taking lists and then cleaning them. So what do I mean by that? Well, you know, typically what I'd have to do is I'd have to go into a county website or a city website or a database like CoStar, and I'd have to pull the property information, and it would be all different stuff in there that wasn't very useful for what I'm trying to do, which is really find the phone number or find the email or find the address of that property. So it would take me hours to clean lists and put them in, format them into an Excel doc, or I spent thousands of dollars with virtual assistants to help me do this. Now I've literally upload a list, tell the ChatGPT how I want it formatted, and it will spit out a beautiful list for me without waiting or anything. It was freaking mind-blowing. And it's by far one of my favorite ways of using it that I've uncovered so far. Number 3. So this has been a game changer for our company, but lead nurturing through AI. Now, there are a number of platforms you can use, but automating your follow-up, automating your email follow-up, automating your text message follow-up, and being able to use ChatGPT to really give you not just, hi, this is Marty, I'm calling you again about your property, but how can we use tactical, wording in order to get someone to respond back to us, right? So what do I mean by that? Well, I will let ChatGPT know what I'm trying to accomplish. Hey, I am setting up autoresponders for my business, and I want to respond to brokers who I want to introduce myself to so that they know to send me deals. I want to introduce myself to new businesses to let them know about properties that I'm going to have that I'd love for them to move into, or, hey, this is for a property that I'm interested in purchasing, right? So they're all 3 different types of ideas of why I'd be reaching out to them and the messaging I'd want to get across to them. But I'm telling ChatGPT that so that they know what is my goal. And then, hey, what are the wording, or what is the strategy, or what is the format of the words that I should be using in order to get responses, right? So maybe that's, hey, I want to be relevant, I want to have a hook, and I want to be assertive in this message to a commercial broker about my company, right? So just kind of thought process on what you can use it for and why, and what I'm doing right now in order to continue to either get my name out there or follow up on a conversation that I've already had. All right. Number 4. Now, this is a great one, especially if you like to get a little creative with it, and that's DALL-E. So through ChatGPT, this DALL-E is a way to say, hey, Chat, create me a picture of, maybe you upload a picture of yourself, have a picture of me in front of the Xerox building in Rochester with a couple of clients. Boom. With DALL-E, it will automatically make that image. Now, it is a newer, service, right? I mean, ChatGPT, it's not been out super long, but you got to remember, as soon as you put something out there, again, come back to think about it, it's only going to get better. So it's only going to evolve. You have to use it. When I first started, I kind of let it sit there for a little bit on the shelf because I go, this isn't what I was thinking. It's not giving me what I want. Well, you have to use it so it kind of knows what it is that you're trying to accomplish. But at the same time, you have to dig in. No, like, for instance, one time I put a post for DALL-E. I said, hey, create this, building and brand it to this specific tenant that I was looking to bring into the building. And it didn't do it how I wanted, but I didn't stop, right? I kept digging into it. Hey, no, use this paint color, or hey, no, put the logo here. And it's a work in progress, but just remember, it's only going to evolve. So the sooner you can start learning how to ask the right questions to ChatGPT or any of those different AI softwares, the better you're going to be at being that engineer, being that prompt engineer. Because there's a philosophy with ChatGPT where everybody thinks, AI is going to take everybody's job, and it very well could. But I always believe that it's going to be people first and people last. So you want to be inputting the information, asking the questions because, I have the knowledge, or at least I have the the information that I want to plug into ChatGPT, Chat's going to give me something back, but I'm going to have to edit that. I'm going to have to add my Marty Grisani flair to it, just like you will. So people first, people last, to ensure that the information that you're putting out there is really the type of content you want to get to your audience, or get to, whether you're trying to sell something, buy something, or trying to teach something. All right, and number 5. And this has been, I think, what everybody uses it for. Like, I just kind of have this as an, oh, by the way. But 5 is, if you're not using this for this is just bananas. But listing descriptions. Inputting a link of the property, and then, hey, write me a listing description of this property, or help me craft a offering memorandum. Help me, brand or market this property to a buyer, right? And that's basically how I would input my information in chat, is say, how do I turn this property into something that somebody would want to move into, or somebody would want to purchase from me? And then working through that, right? Oh, what pictures do you think would be helpful in order to capture the best of this property, right? And again, working, constantly trying to get it to be where I think it's going to get the attention that it deserves and that I want it to have. Again, this is all things that have taken hours and hours and hours of my precious brain to do. Now I have my sidekick. I have my own personal, graphic designer, my own. I have all these different tools and all these different time savers because I'm using ChatGPT. And if you're not, you really should. And just some others that I'm not even going to include in this, but tenant communication. There are tools for that where you're automatically getting, if somebody's coming onto your website and wants to get information about a listing, having that bot there that can do that for you and just kind of give some information. But at the same time, nothing's going to beat picking up that phone and calling them. Data entry, like I was saying, not just cleaning, but you can input data very simply with chat. And one other thing is, if you're a commercial real estate owner, that's what I was getting at with the tenant communication, but also predictive maintenance, right? So if you know that this building you've owned for 3 or 4 years, it can kind of remind you of, hey, make sure you're, XYZ, every year, hey, put the furnace filter in there, right? Just little things that you'd think everyone should be doing. But again, because it's a time saver, and it's just, we were so busy, everybody's so busy, having those things in there and setting up a program for your different properties, and having chat really help you and remind you and just keep you on top of that. So that is the 5 ways that our company are using AI for our commercial real estate and residential real estate business. All right. So got a couple questions here from the group, a couple of mentees that have asked me for information and to really dial and dive into the subject matter, which is, structuring seller financed deals. As you know, seller financing is one of our acquisition strategies, if not the most used acquisition strategy that we're buying commercial and residential properties. And I'll give you, for instance, this week we picked up a property that was, ARV 180, that we're going to contract for $80,000. And, why was it $80,000? Well, let's kind of go back. So this lead came in through a cold call through our sales team. And originally the guy wanted $120,000 for the property. Okay. And as is, it's not quite worth that. But if he took his equity in installments, you might be able to make that work. So, part of the reason of having a seller finance strategy is that was my main tool of entry in talking with this seller. saying that I could pay that 120, but I would have to, and he would have to take his equity over installments, meaning he would have to take payments in order to get to that 120. So as we're communicating back and forth, and then after I viewed the property, and he viewed the property, we kind of realized that it may not be worth that. And I still gave him that offer. But as I'm building up rapport, as I'm building up trust, as I'm building up, hey, I'm going to buy this. I want to work with you. He started in his own life realizing, I don't really want to hold this paper long term. I thought I did. I thought I wanted the tax benefit, but really I'm moving to Florida. It's going to be something on my head that I just don't want to mess with. I want the cash offer, right? Well, if that's the case, obviously, your price, my terms, so your price was 120, Mr. Seller. So I will give you that, but it's got to be on my terms. Now, if you want, that 80,000, if you want a number to get out, then it's going to be, my price. Okay. So I can give you what you're looking for, but it's going to be either over terms, or if it's a cash deal, then, that number is going to go down dramatically because now I have to, get that cash together in order to buy that property. Still going to be a great deal. And I'm really excited about it. Obviously there's going to be some work that needs to be done. There's a tenant that we're going to have to figure out in that situation. But at the end of the day, having the strategy allowed me to buy this cash, right? So having a seller finance strategy doesn't mean you just have to buy things seller finance. It allows you to, show the differences on what you can offer because you don't know what they're going to want after talking with them for a period of time. And that's how we were able to secure that deal for that discount. All right. But the question was, how do I structure a seller finance deal? Fair enough. Well, let's just get high level. You have to get to a purchase price. Okay. So you have to agree to a value of that property that they're willing to accept. Then you're going to negotiate a down payment. And, like I said before in different episodes, the 5-5-5 rule, 5% down, 5% hold, and then a balloon in 5 years, or 5% down, 5% interest, and then you want them to hold it for 5 years. But a down payment can range. It could be no money down. We're under contract and going to close on a $1 million property with no money down. I'm paying more than anyone probably would, okay? But I'm going to be able to take this property down with no money down. The lease is going to pay his payment. And it's not just a day one deal for me. It's a tax play for me. It's something that after 5 years, when the lease is up and it goes to market rate, that's something that's going to be a benefit to the company. But again, it doesn't have to be the 20% down is what I'm getting at. So, find a range that you believe is going to be the benefit for you, and then hope that it's also going to be a win for them. So that is the down payment. Interest rate. As you know, interest rates are high right now, from anywhere from 7 to 8% on, commercial type properties, commercial deals, even residential. They're pretty high. I think they're going down a little bit. I think I've seen something where it's like 6.5. So, the thought process as well, if traditional mortgages are at 6.5%, then I probably got to go to 7.5. Wrong. I would immediately go to 3. Let them tell you what they believe is going to be something that they can digest as a number. If I start at 3, well, maybe we end up at 5. But if I start at 5, I'm probably going to end up at 6 or 6.5. But if, so you got to remember that, it's all negotiable, but I'm not going to start at the interest rate that I believe they would accept. I want to go with something that I'm going to feel really good about. And if they're okay with it too, then great. 3% is still better than no percent. So let that be known. All right. Loan term. That's the length, right? So you got to really establish a loan term of how long are they going to hold the mortgage for. And in some cases, it might only be a year. Now, ideally, like I said, 5-5-5 rule, that 5 is you would love them to hold it for 5. because different changes in the market, different changes in real estate, different changes in interest rates that are going, universally, we want to have something that we can have stable, and 5 years is a nice little time. So again, it's all going to be a thread of the needle, right? All these little levers we can pull in order to make it a win-win-win for all parties involved. And the longer, the better, especially if we know that rates are, over a period of 30 years, right at like around 7.5. Well, if you can secure a 5, 10, 20-year term at 5.5, well, you know that you're already doing better than the last 30 plus years. So again, it's just, how do I make this work? And how do I make it so that I'm protecting myself? Because if something were to happen year 3 and interest rates with the banks right now are at 9, well, I got 2 more years to hopefully that those come down, that now I can sell or refinance, and it's going to make sense. Repayment schedule, having the monthly payment plan. So a lot of times we really try to negotiate interest only. And the reason behind that, because you might be thinking, well, don't you want to pay some of this principal down? Not really, especially if it's cash flowing super hard, right? So interest only obviously means that the payment's going to be less. I'm not going to have to pay the principal. And if you're getting because for a lot of times when I do longer term plays, it's really a cash play for our company. I know that with my finding the deal, it's already, I'm buying it under market. So I know that if I have 5 years to play with and I'm already buying it below where the market is right now, in 5 years' time with inflation, that property is going to go up in value. So that by the time I have to go and start paying principal, no problem, because my value's gone up and now I can refinance with a bank, and I can either take that equity, right, working with the bank tax-free, or I can sell it and, kind of put that off, that principal payment off, but knowing that it doesn't really matter because with appreciation, I got to the number anyway. I was probably already at the number within a year or two when I bought it. Because, again, a seller finance deal doesn't necessarily mean you're getting a good deal. You still got to buy it right. You still got to really understand where this property is going to go in that time period you're buying it. You have to have a business plan for the property. But that is really something to remember, is that you still got to make sure you're buying it right. So repayment schedule is good. All right. So the next question is, what are the benefits to the seller in a seller finance transaction? And this is where you build the rapport, because now they're going to see you as a consultant, and they're going to see you as somebody that's going to be able to walk them through the transaction. Because a lot of times, most of the deals that we buy that are seller financed, they've never done a seller financed transaction before. They've never sold anything seller financing. So I always am asking questions. There's not, and over time, this is something that you can do. For me, I'm dyslexic. I have trouble getting out words from time to time. And so having scripts has been very helpful for me. The problem with scripts is that you sound scripted. So you have to really practice the scripting, practice with friends, practice with other real estate investors, and see where your blind spots are. Practice with business owners, practice with people that you'd want to buy properties from, if you have friends or family or what have you, and just kind of walk it through so that they can go, well, here's probably my rebuttal of that, or, hey, you didn't really answer this question, right? So it's all practice. But, as I'm asking questions, I'm asking the sellers, and sometimes you'll know, do you need the money, right? If you're selling a building and this is a business owner and they're, probably doing quite well, you'd think, or whatever, a lot of times they don't need the money. And so what they do like, though, is an income stream. hey, let me ask you this, Mr. Seller. What would you do with the money when you sell the property? And the reason I'm asking is just so I can understand what the best strategy for you tax-wise, because when you go to sell this building, I know you've owned it for 20 plus years. Again, I'm doing my research, right? I know you own this for 20 plus years. And, for instance, I just bought a property from a seller and, he had owned it for almost 30 years. And he goes, Marty, the one thing I don't want to do is pay my partner. And Mr. Seller, I said, it's funny. I go, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, I don't want to pay, I have a partner, Uncle Sam, and I don't want to pay him 40% because I've been depreciating it for so long. And just like you, Mr. Seller, I'm sure you don't want to have to pay that partner either. Well, as much as at least we can shield as much as we can, right? Yeah, of course, Marty. Well, great. Because the reason why I asked is this: if you're just going to take the cash and you don't have somewhere to put it, like if you're getting out of real estate and you're not going to 1031 exchange it into something else, well, then my suggestion is to hold the paper. And instead of me paying Wells Fargo the monthly mortgage, I just pay it to you with an interest rate, which will help minimize that tax consequence because of all the money you're going to make on the back end. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, let me show you. And then during that time, I'm going to work up an amortization that I can show them. For instance, the gentleman that I bought that house from with the $80,000 that I was going to give him $120 if he held the paper, he was going to end up making after 10 years over $225,000 if he held the paper. And I was making the payments, the interest and monthly payments, the interest and principal payments. But he decided against the 10-year hold and he just wanted the cash now. No problem. I can pay cash now. The point is you want to show them the benefit. Hey, if you hold this for 10 years, because the longer they hold it, the more interest that they can make. And you really want to show them why they're getting, what the pros are for them. The other really big thing is it's a faster sale. Look, if I got to go to a bank, it's going to take 60 to 90 days, especially if it's a commercial deal, right? I got to get mortgage commitment. I have to have appraisals done. All these things take long time. You have to have, we're buying a property that they had to have, the bank had to do like a council meeting and they had to bring it up to the board, right? I got to give personal financial statements. I got to give what I own. They can see my global cash flows, right? All good things, right? These are good things to have because that means I'm doing what I need to do in this world. But if I'm a seller, I don't want necessarily all that information. I want to know that you have your shit together, and I want to see that, I want to check out your PFS, but I don't need to do all this other crazy stuff that the banks are going to want to do because they're regulated. So instead of it being a 90 to 180 day type transaction, we can really do these things in 30 days. And that's a huge benefit to a seller. So again, how would you sell it to a seller? Highlight the financial benefits to them. Talk about the potential income streams and the higher interest earnings. Emphasize the tax advantages. Discuss how spreading capital gains over time is tax efficient. Present a solid plan. That's how you can win these people over with the seller financing deal. And then offer competitive terms. One of the slick tricks that I've actually never been asked to do it, but I always bring it up. Part of the problem with seller financing is if the deal goes a certain way, if the deal goes south and they have to take the property back, that's really what they don't want to do. But what I do is I really highlight it and I say, look, I'll even put a life insurance policy on this property. So if something were to happen to me or my partner, not only would you get the property back, but you'd also have that life insurance policy as well on that. And I've looked it up. It's like very minimal, $15, $20 a month, on a multi-million-dollar property. It's a big deal. And it shows that you know what you're talking about. It shows you've done this before. I offer it every time. I've never been asked to do it, but I offer it because I want to give peace of mind. I want to destroy doubt. When you're structuring seller financing, it's about destroying doubt, why they should work with you. It sounds really good. They're going to minimize their taxes. They're going to make more money because of interest. They're going to, not have to take as long on a sale if I were using a bank. All these things are amazing, but I have to perform, and they have to trust that I'm going to perform on this property. So having that information ready and giving that benefit, it just makes me look credible. It makes me sound like I know what I'm doing. Good thing I know what I'm doing. But when I first started, I muddied through a lot of this. And having people that trust you, having people that understand what you're trying to accomplish, having a brand is important, and they're going to view you differently if you do have those things. Okie dokie. So we got to finish up here. One little quick tidbit. When I first started, I didn't understand what a balloon payment was. So when I'm telling people through the seller financing, hey, and we'll balloon you out in 5 to 10 years, that just means the amount that I owe that seller is due in that time. So, Mr. Seller, we're going to, 5-year hold, but we'll do a 5-year balloon at that point. So no matter whatever I've been paying, if it's just interest only over that 5-year time, let's say, well, then I owe all the money of that principal at that 5-year. So if it's a $120,000 purchase price after 5 years, and I've just been paying interest only on the monthly mortgage, well, then at year 5, I owe $120,000. Okay. So that's what that means. Or I got to, refinance it or sell at that point. All right. Well, that's it. I think that's pretty much episode 69. And I hope you enjoyed this 69 and as much as I liked doing a 69. So take care. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning into the Marty Grisani Show. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, leave us an honest rating and review. If you're on Spotify, make sure you follow us for weekly episodes.